Hello. I always have to wait until it goes live and it's almost like that awkward pause. Hey, happy Heartbreak Hotel Book Club night. It is week 4. Today we are talking about holding space, creating that area for compassion, as well as really, I think we touch on comparison. I think that feels really important. And then we're going to talk about inklings and what to do, what they are and how to do about them. So noticing as we go through the first couple of weeks and how you can feel really almost like excited or like, yes, we're going to get this stuff out. Yes, we're going to be working on our feelings and emotions, that where you're training your body for every week when you come into this to be able to tap into that energy sooner and sooner. How you don't need the guided meditations to go into writing, and how you start to feel the words coming sooner and easier and easier. The flow is starting to, remember we talked about that dam like breaking, that the ebb is starting to be like that little bit of a calmer water, or at least slightly more predictable water versus just like that huge flood and rush of emotions. When we start writing, what often happens to everybody really is we start to compare ourselves to others. We compare ourselves to others in the group. We compare ourselves to other artists. We compare ourselves to other writers. And there's a part of us that does that to be able to keep us outside of our comfort, like inside our comfort zone, because we're going outside the comfort zone where it's not safe. It's not predictable here. We don't know what's going to happen. And our subconscious mind, our ego, tries to keep us safe. It's their job. It's your mind's way of keeping you protected and in that herd and that safety mentality for it. When you notice yourself comparing your writing to other writers, your style, I think, to other people too, is really just being able to take that minute to come back to yourself and have that a little chat with that inner dialogue and that inner mind, and being able to be like, yo, I see what we're doing here. This is scary stuff. Sharing your writing with other people is scary stuff. It's not just saying, hey, look at this thing I created. It's like, hey, look at the depths and the darkness of my soul that even I'm afraid to look at. And if you could look at it too, that would be great. And we don't know how other people are going to react to that. We don't know what if their judgment's going to be there, if they're going to act in a negative way, if they're going to be supportive of our writing and being able to truly celebrate not only our words, but the healing that comes with those words as well. It's a huge and crazy unknown. Like, no wonder you're feeling very vulnerable and scared. And really, like, that comparison is trying to talk you out of your vulnerability. And you can have that chat with yourself and be like, hey, I see what is happening. I see why this is happening. There's a fruit fly in here. It's driving me bananas. It's a great little distraction. Being able to really see that and acknowledge it for what it is, which is a distraction, is trying to get you to stop writing. But be like, hey, I see what you're doing. I know why you're doing it, but this is still really important. This is still really important to our heart. And this is what we need. So even though, yes, it's scary. Yes, we don't know what's going to happen. Yes, we don't know if we're good or not. That you can still take that brave leap forward and being able to do that, just like we talked about courage last week. It's also super important to know that art is subjective. It is all completely based on your own personal opinion, which is completely different from everybody else's. So what you like and what you see in poetry and in art and in music and in nature is completely different than every other human that is sharing that same experience with you. That's the point of art, is to be able to create something that has another human recognize a part of themselves in something that you've created, whether that interpretation or not is the same. So I think it's important to notice that, like, as you are writing and as you are creating this sometimes really deep and sometimes emotional and dark poetry, that it's not about convincing other people to understand what it is you're writing. This feels very important to like feel into and like really hear to. Your writing is not here to convince anybody of how you're feeling. Okay. It's not for anybody else to validate your emotion. It's not for anybody else to understand. Your writing here within this poetry, within the Heartbreak Hotel Book Club, is here for your healing. And you can share that as a part of sharing your light and sharing your vulnerability and starting to create that safe space for other people to be able to do that same thing. But you're the only one that's going to validate that. You know if your writing's good or not. There's writing you can write out something and be like, damn, that was good. I like that. I like how this fits here. Or you can write it out and be like, that's not like quite the right word. Maybe if I move this over, maybe, and sometimes it's not even just the word, it's the sentence structure, it's the rhythm, it's the rhyme, it's the cadence of it. Sometimes it's like the actual physical placement of the word. You have to put it way to the right of the page while everything else is on the left to see how it fits, how it feels. You are trying words on. You are trying to take your emotions out, fit them like a suit, and be like, damn, like that looks good. I like this. I can go out confidently in the world and share this just a little bit more. That makes sense? I feel like that makes sense. It's important to know that you're not here to convince anybody that your work is good. Your work is here for you. You get to decide how you want to share that or not. Okay. Being in week 4, this is where we start to feel like we're running out of steam, feeling like we're maybe out of emotion, feeling almost like bored with like what we're doing and how we're doing it. But this is the point that if you can actually lean into that feeling is where really like the depths and like that compassion, holding space for yourself comes from, where new realm, new depth, new darkness, new layer, like a parfait, a new layer of healing is completed. If so often we are conditioned in our culture, in our society to repress those emotions. You've been doing an incredible job in the last couple of weeks of being able to tap into that and really bring them up. But now there's going to be part of us it's like, okay, well, like we're done now. Like let's get to like the fun bit. Like when do we start doing, you'll start forward thinking, like when are we going to, like how are we going to publish this? What are the logistics? When can I get to like the good stuff? You'll try to leap over this part right here, this abyss, this sitting in the emotion. But this is where the healing is. It's just being able to literally sit and feel into the emotion now that you've tapped into it and being able to ask yourself, what is this trying to tell me? What is my emotion that I tap into with Heartbreak Hotel when I check in? What is my heart saying? And we've done through like these, like that big wave of emotion, like that anger and that denial, and like being able to, like the depths of the sadness of it. It's like, what is our heart trying to tell us? And being able to create that space for listening. Holding space is creating a safe space for someone to be able to be vulnerable without trying to fix or repair them. You're not here to solve a problem. Your emotions, how you feel about what happened, aren't a problem. You are not broken. You are experiencing life. And this is a part of this journey. Where can we feel what happened? When you can tap into the emotion of that situation that happened to you, not because you deserved it, but because it happened, where can you tap into your heart and feel what's happening without reason, without judgment, without comparison? Just awareness, just acknowledgement that maybe under all that sadness is love with nowhere to go. What does it feel like when you lean into it? Describe it for you, for your heart. What is in there? You are creating this space for your heart to be heard. And within that space and in that, that's where healing happens, because our bodies and our emotions are screaming for somebody to listen. First, we want the external world to listen, and then we bring it in. We want our minds to listen to what's going on. We want to try to make sense of it all. But really, when we just create that space in that time of resistance and that itchiness, when we want to skip over this part and be like, hey, like, why did this happen? Tell me why. Before we get to the why, feel into the emotion. Where do you feel it trapped in your body? Where do you feel it try to get out of? What's underneath? What's underneath? And this might require a little bit of push from yourself to be able to strive for yourself to go a little bit deeper than you have been, even more so. Because you think you are at the depths of the ocean, but really you are just like at the tip of the Marianas Trench of what can be inside your heart and those emotions for that situation that are there. What are you feeling? How does it feel? Go deeper with this curiosity of what's trying to be said. What does it feel like? Just being able to describe it creates this, like when you shine the light with the description, this is where that darkness starts to fade and starts to dissipate, because it is being seen and it's being acknowledged, it's being validated by yourself, from your heart, for you. This is where we can kind of start to let go, because we are doing the work. Creating that space and holding it for yourself is an incredible act of self-compassion. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice. And this week, what I want you to do to be able to create that space is actually put yourself in a space of boredom. I want you to get in a bathtub without your phone or a book. I want you to go for a walk without a podcast or an audiobook. I want you to lay in the middle of your living room floor by yourself. I want you to get into the hammock or outside in the sun. And I just want you to be there. I want you to create a space of boredom. 10, 15, 20 minutes would be amazing. Just be with yourself. Notice how you feel. Notice who you feel is like talking to you inside. Is it this inner child that's trying to scream out for something? Is it this wounded teenager? Is it the friend within you? Creating that space for boredom deliberately is where we create that space for words and for art to be created. So often in our society now, we don't have those spaces of boredom. We have to intentionally go out and seek them. This is where space is created, where we have that time to listen. This is meditating. Being with yourself as your own best friend and creating that safe space for compassion for yourself helps you lean into those feelings. Breathing into it. It seems, I want to say nonsensical, nonsensical. It doesn't seem like it would be anything that would help. It's not about like purposely making yourself sad or crying about something. It's about just creating that space to lean into those emotions at the time where everybody else, and even you, even I, want to distract ourselves from that. But when we create that space and get into that, then that's where like magic can happen. Breathing in and breathing out. Noticing that after you've created that space of boredom and feeling into that and leaning into those emotions, how you feel afterwards. Just like we checked in last week on a scale of 1 to 10. When you started, how did you feel? And afterwards, how you feel? When you create this kind of space for just being with your emotions, specific ones, even at that, you can feel like you've lost 10 pounds. Like the weight of the world is lifted off your shoulders. This is how we let go. Where there's so much of us, whether we're aware of it or not, they're like, we are holding on so tight to a rope of emotions within us because we're scared to let go. When really, if we just breathed in, felt it in, and on that breath out, let go a little bit more, then it wouldn't hurt so much holding on anymore. It's not about invalidating your feelings. It's not about forgetting what happened. It's not about releasing the responsibilities of others that may or may not have hurt you. This is just about letting go and having that practice of what happened no longer control you. Because that's what we can get really angry about and frustrated and really resentful is how other people are making us feel. Because that's not who we are. It's just a part of us that's looking to be heard. Breathing in again. Breathing out. Stretch. Even now, just feeling how you're just a little bit more expansive. You're creating this blank slate for words to up on. Elizabeth Gilbert in her book Big Magic talks about how ideas come to her, or a friend of hers, in the wind, and how she feels like she has to race home to get ready for them because she can feel it coming. She knows there's an idea. And if she can get to her pen and paper right at a time, then they can be expressed through her. Otherwise, they continue to be carried in the wind. And she also talks about how ideas and words and concepts are passed on from one person to another until they are expressed. How she had an idea for a book and had done some research, and then she had hugged her friend, and in that moment felt that she passed that idea of the book along to her friend, who in turn wrote it because it didn't feel right to her yet. Her friend did a beautiful job with it. I love to be able to call these inklings. I feel that when I start to write and I tap into that resource, there's just like this group of words that forms. Or I get like this feeling like my hand gets itchy, or I feel like just like a, not necessarily anxious, but like this elevated energy within my heart space that it's time to do something. I feel like a little bit frantic almost internally, that something needs to get out, something needs to be born, that I need to do something about it. And this is what I call an inkling. It can also be called like the inspired action, that you just get this idea that pops into your head, these words that come into your head, this stanza, this line, this picture that needs to be created, and creating the space for that. We've been doing this on Wednesday nights, but also on your deliberate space and intentional space of boredom, that you're also creating this space for words. I love to be able to think about a memory that I have and being able to be like, how would I describe this for others? How does it make me feel? What is this group like? What is this one word that keeps coming up? How would I paint a picture to have this memory or feeling be seen by others as though it were painted on a canvas. If I were to describe this, how would an artist paint it? How would you put paint to the poetry? That I like to feel things and I love to try them on until it's like just not quite right. And then all of a sudden it just feels like it like snaps together and it has to be born in this way. I have an app on my phone. I wanted to show it to you. This is called Awesome Note. And I love to be able to kind of group my writings, what I want to do. I have poetry posts that I want to make, just little lines of things, this little snippets that I can write down. And as I feel like I am in the space to write, as I feel like I know I have to write, but I don't know quite what it is, that I can go in that space and be able to pick from what I need. You're creating a catalog for yourself of awareness of these words, this dictionary that you can go into to be able to help you find that anchor, just like we talked about in week 1. It doesn't matter how you write. If you write in longhand in this beautiful calligraphic pen, or if you have an old school typewriter, or if you're using like original Mac DOS inkjet, like the dot matrix. Oh man, do you remember those like printers with like the perforated edges? Like, are you writing poetry like that? Or are you typing it in your phone? Are you scribbling it on the back of receipts that you have in your wallet? It doesn't matter. I think what matters is what you do with it afterwards. Where are you starting to create your collection? Where are you gathering your words that when you have enough of them, create a collection, which in turn then create a book? It doesn't matter how you write. It doesn't. It doesn't matter how you present it. Sometimes you have to try on a bazillion different things. Maybe it's creating a fake email address or a different email address and then texting or emailing yourself those poems. Art is subjective, and it doesn't matter how you do it or what it looks like. What matters is that it is created. It's created from a feeling or even a lack of a feeling. That would be incredible art too, just this lack of feeling. How would you describe that? That's art. That's poetry. That's what you can do. Gathering these inklings. I would love for you to share in the group this week how you have found an inkling. You don't necessarily have to share your writing, although you're more than welcome to, because I love seeing it. But it's how you noticed an inkling. Was it right before you're about to go to sleep? That's when I get most of mine. That's why I keep a notebook by my bed, because just as I'm falling asleep, I always call in my angels and guides and my loved ones, and I thank them for their help throughout the day. I think of everything that I was grateful for that happened that day. I'm grateful for them keeping my family safe and all of us being healthy. And then all of a sudden, bam, I get a group of words that have to be written down immediately. And that's when I get my inklings. And my book, my first book was written by just writing down what came into my head every night before I got to sleep. Because I also just distracted myself all day long from feeling all these feelings. And then I couldn't distract myself anymore because I go to sleep. And then this poem was born and I had to do something with it. I had to put it somewhere. Now I'm in this practice of being able to tap into that energy when I feel like it, when I want to, when I feel like it's important, or even when it's not. It's really being able to like not force yourself into the feeling, but really lean into like the habit of writing. Okay. I would love to share one more from my next book. I always just open it and see what comes up. Okay. This is great. It's just not about teaching. It's also about doing. All right. I don't know if I actually. This is good. That one's spicy. Okay. I'm gonna write a couple. I'm not gonna read you this spicy one because this is a public platform. Isn't it just the most wonderful thing that laughter is contagious? Hero, give me that outbreak. And this other one a few weeks later. You left because you couldn't tell me the truth. And how wild is that? And it wasn't even anything bad. It was just life. And I'll read you. I have this actually indicated as the last page of the book. I feel like I've read this before, but it feels important to read again. How many times are we going to start again? And in the end, does it really matter? In each life that we start again, and really how incredible is it that I've not only done this in past lives, but this one as well, that I get to fall in love with you and your little and you with me and my littles over and over again, growing closer each time. As we are not destined to live a life apart. I encourage you to create that space for boredom. I encourage you to lean in just a little bit more, a little bit deeper into what it feels like, what your heart is trying to feel, not why, just what. How does it feel? What is it feeling? Describing that and leaning even more into this space of shining a light into your emotions. Breathing into that space, holding that space with a lot of compassion for yourself, just like you would do for your best friend. What would you do for you? Be there with yourself and share with the others this week how your inkling came to be. I'm very grateful for our time here together. Thank you.